It's pretty rare for me to come across a couple's TikTok and actually enjoy it. This couple might be one of the worst pages I've come across.
What? What is that face?
I think it's happening.
The baby?
Yes.
Like right now?
No, not right now, but it's I think it's going to happen soon.
Why?
Because something really gross just happened.
What? Why are you clapping about it?
Hi, I'm Danny, and you can normally find me on this channel diving into TLC shows, Christian fundamentalism, and exposing family vloggers. If that sounds like something you're into, I'm excited to have you around. I do want to note that this video includes talks of domestic violence and abuse. Now, before getting into their recent drama online, let's learn who this couple is. Kay and Tay's first TikTok was posted on December 27th, 2021, and their page has grown exponentially since. It now boasts 10.5 million followers. They do have a YouTube channel, however, it is primarily used to post shorts, which are just their TikToks. They have one actual video on it, but still boast an impressive 2.6 million subscribers. But what better way to get to know these two than on Matt and Abby's own podcast, The Unplanned Podcast. This episode was posted in January, about a month after the birth of their first child. Although this was their first child together, both of them have a history with kids.
Tay's ex-wife cheated on him and got pregnant while he was deployed in Afghanistan. Kay, on the other hand, got pregnant at 19 and has a 12-year-old daughter that she has joint custody over.
Tay and Kay begin the podcast episode talking about how they didn't have a lot of money when they got married in 2015. Tay had just gotten out of the Air Force and had under $10,000 in savings. They decided to spend most of that money on a backpacking trip through Europe and elope. It's clear that neither of them were very smart with their spending, but it all worked out in the end, so good for them. They then transitioned to talking about their previous marriages.
I got married at 18. I got pregnant and had my first daughter at 19. The marriage was not good. It was not compatible. We fought a lot, and when I say fight, I mean fight. It wasn't like Taylor and I's arguments.
Kay's ex was also in the military and was extremely controlling. I hope they get into the conversation surrounding how the military, unfortunately, incentivizes young members to get married. But after Kay got divorced, Tay and Kay met. 6 months later, Taylor met Kay's daughter, who was 3 at this point, and Kay says they're basically best friends today, which is awesome to hear. And now Tay starts sharing what happened with his previous marriage, and he talks about how his wife at the time was sleeping with people he worked with.
It was multiple people, but
They didn't know. She didn't know who.
she didn't know who the dad was.
Unfortunately for Tay, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, more commonly called the UCMJ, which is the law book for all members of the military, didn't add cheating until 2019. I think that just goes to show how common it is for military members to cheat or be cheated on. It's so sad. Back to Kay and Tay's relationship, they dated for a year before moving in together and then got married another year later. Then they get into a topic that I think more people need to know about: getting married in the military.
The military will pay you more if you're married.
Yes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, everyone was getting married, but I don't think it was like I want to live together first, or I want to get married first. I think it was like I was with this person before I joined, so I might as well get married and get that extra few $100 a month.
Now, it's been nearly a decade since Tay was in, so he doesn't speak to it all that well. But as someone who has been in for nearly 3.5 years and is also married to someone in the Air Force, I can speak to it. Quick legal disclaimer: the views I express here are my own and don't necessarily represent the views of the Air Force or DoD. Now, my husband and I had been dating for over 3.5 years by the time we got married. Our primary reason for getting married was not the military at all, but joining the military at the same time likely pushed our timeline forward as we were in our young 20s and didn't have the financial stability to be married yet. A guaranteed 4-year job created that stability for us. When it comes to mill-to-mill relationships, you almost certainly want to be married so you can be stationed together. Otherwise, the military just views you as separate people and will put you at whatever base they want. However, I don't tend to see people rushing into marriage because of the extra pay, as much as because it allows the military member access to basic housing allowance, or BAH. And that means that they don't have to live in the dorms for the several years that they're the lower enlisted ranks. Your BAH rate is based on the area your base is at, the rank you currently are, and then whether or not you have dependents. When Kay was married to her ex, she and her daughter would have been considered 2 dependents under her spouse. For my husband and I, because we don't have kids and are both active duty, we individually receive single BAH, meaning we don't have dependents. Let's look at the BAH rates for Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. If Kay's husband was junior enlisted, they would be receiving $2,268 tax-free per month to pay for their housing. This rate would be the same even if they didn't have a kid, as it's just based on having dependents or not. For my husband and I, we would both receive $1,959 for a total of $3,918 per month. Again, this is tax-free. So that also speaks to why many military members get married or at least live together once they are allowed to move out of the dorms. But it's not just BAH. Dependents also receive military health care, specifically called TRICARE, access to base where there's an array of cheaper shopping options or activities to do depending on the base, and so many various education benefits, whether it be from your spouse or parent giving you their GI Bill or going to a school that offers dependent scholarships. And finally, couples receive $250 a month whenever they are forced to be separated for more than 30 days due to the military's needs. I want to be clear that I am not saying young marriage is inherently bad or that military relationships are all awful. My story would make both of those statements false. However, I do agree with Tay's statement that the military incentivizes young people to get married, and that can and has led to some dangerous or unhealthy situations. I do want to correct Tay when he says your food allowances, normally called BAS or Basic Allowance for Sustenance, is not for dependents, as it's meant to cover the costs of the service member needing food. That means my husband and I both get our own allowance, but a military member and their dependent wife or husband would only receive one allotment per month. Anyways, let's get back to Tay and Kay. Kay talks about her autoimmune disease and how hard it's been postpartum.
So when she was about 6 weeks old, that's when it all hit me again. And it was like, it's been a lot worse than it was even before I was pregnant.
I'm going to be honest, I've seen some of their videos on TikTok and they annoyed me. However, I don't currently have any issues with this couple in this podcast format. I'm surprised by that, but also think this is going to change once we get more into the drama. Then Kay shares why she doesn't show her 12-year-old in their content. And I have mixed feelings about it.
Number one, my daughter is 12. She has a choice. If she doesn't want to be on our podcast, on her content, then I'm not going to force her to do that. Same with Ellie. Once Ellie's old enough to make that decision, like, I will never force my kids to be a part of this if they don't want to be.
I mostly agree and love that. My issue is she's also putting her newest daughter, Ellie, all over their page. And I'd argue that that is forcing her to be on the internet. Additionally, I appreciate her not forcing her older daughter, but what do we truly define as being old enough to make that decision? 12 is not an age anyone can consent at. So what age would that be for Ellie? Ultimately, I wish Tay and Kay could stick to couple content and leave the baby out of it. But obviously not everyone on the internet has this same view, and so Kay and Tay receive a lot of comments and messages stating or implying that they hate the older daughter because she isn't featured anywhere in their content. That's definitely frustrating because you can't win either way. My argument is also for the safety of the child, and I fully believe children do not belong on the internet, specifically when that creator has a massive audience. What really confuses me about this episode is Kay talked about how her ex was very controlling and basically tracked every move of hers. To me, it sounded like he was abusive. However, as we already mentioned, they share custody of their daughter, but some say he has custody and she pays child support. Also, when talking about posting their daughter online, Kay mentions the biological dad, her ex, is against it.
And, you know, the other thing is her father doesn't want her on it for his own reasons, and that's his thing.
So this really confuses me as far as what type of guy he was or currently is. But that's the end of that podcast episode. This episode was received very positively, and people were happy to get to know more about this couple that they only see short clips of online. However, public opinion of them changed when the narrative seemed to not add up anymore. And to clear up these allegations, instead of using their own channel and following, they decided to go on the Unplanned podcast again. This episode was posted on July 31st, 2024.
In 2019, Tay was charged with alleged harassment. The charges were later dismissed, but over this past week, the mugshot resurfaced, prompting rumors of everything from the couple getting a divorce to Tay being in jail.
Never did I ever think I'd be using this podcast to talk about a different controversial internet couple, but here we are. Kay and Tay stayed completely silent about this controversy before going on the Unplanned podcast. So we don't really have any other ways of hearing their side of the story.
A lot of people are getting the story wrong, and they're lying and twisting things, and there's a lot of false narratives going around, and we just feel like it's time to tell the true story of what actually happened, because people need to hear the truth.
So to recap Kay's story, this happened over 5 years ago. This was right about when she started taking medication for her autoimmune disease, and she did not realize she wasn't supposed to mix it with alcohol. The medication was specifically Cymbalta. She woke up a few hours after taking it and was incredibly confused. The day before had been her birthday, and when she woke up that night, she thought it was time for them to get up and go out to celebrate. She had forgotten they already did that.
Basically, it ended where I said, I'm going to call the cops if you don't let me leave. And in his mind, he's like, okay, call the cops. Maybe they'll come and help you. Like, he wanted them to come because he wanted them to help me. He said, you're having a medical emergency. Something's not right. Like, we were not drunk. There was no reason that I should have been acting like that.
For background, Kay's dad was a chief of police when she was growing up, so she fully trusted the police at this moment. Unfortunately, from her perspective, they decided to interview her, and considering her mental and medical state at the time, they shouldn't have. But she did tell them she didn't feel safe because he wouldn't let her leave the house. This is where I say ACAB, because I refuse to believe they couldn't tell she was out of it, if this story is true. But because this was now a domestic case, the police said one of them had to go into the station, and Tay volunteered. I find this moment a bit odd, because why would they need to do that if there was no proof of violence? Super suspicious.
I was left there, and they took Taylor, and that was the last thing that I remember, other than I called you when you were in jail, and we coordinated the bail money, and I bailed him out the next day. If he was doing something to hurt me, I would not be allowed to bail him out legally. I would have had to remain separated from him until the court hearing.
Again, if this story is true, leaving her alone in that state is incredibly dangerous and scary. Shame on those officers for not listening and caring for someone desperately needing their help. And shame on her doctor for not emphasizing not to take alcohol with this medication. But then Kay says something that brings back my point about her ex.
Here's the thing, like, I've lived abuse. I know abuse, and I would never, after getting out of it, I would never be with somebody that did that to me, ever. So I'm a little insulted that people would think I'd stay with somebody after what I've been through.
Kay is entitled to feeling that way. But I want to state clearly that survivors and victims of abuse are exactly that. They are not the bad guys. They are not to be blamed. They don't always actively choose to return to abuse situations. It can be frustrating to be on the outside and think getting away is so easy and obviously the right thing to do. But love, guilt, culture, Stockholm syndrome, or any other numerous reasons factor into why people stay or return. All of that to say, why does her child seem to primarily live with this man? That confuses me greatly. However, I know it's not uncommon. It's also possible he was an abusive husband, but is a great father. Honestly, humans are complex and nearly impossible to understand. But another reason people on the internet were so upset about finding Taylor's mugshot was that he was smiling in it. But they just amount this to the situation not being that serious and him not knowing what to do, as the cops kept saying it wasn't a big deal and they had to bring someone in. Odd, but not crazy. They also mention they can't go into detail for legal reasons, but they personally know the person who made this mugshot go viral and know they did it to deliberately hurt them. Many speculate it's her ex or a family relative, but we just don't know. But she does share some information on the screenshot that the mugshot came from.
That database doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Really?
That database stopped existing in 2019. So the person that got that screenshot that's being leaked right now in 2024 had to have obtained that screenshot in 2019.
It's definitely a sad story. I'm skeptical about it, but I do believe it could have happened. Many medications don't mix well with alcohol, and police aren't commonly trained to deal with medical emergencies very well. It's unfortunate how everything went down. The commonly told story from the internet drama is that Taylor threw Kay on the bed and was truly physically abusive. There's no proof towards that as far as I'm aware, so I don't know where that story came from. What is true is that this case was dismissed, so the court didn't see an issue between Kay and Tay. They also had the option to expunge the charge, but they couldn't afford the several $1,000 fee. Kay then mentioned how they didn't address this sooner because she's already been deeply struggling with postpartum depression and didn't feel ready yet.
I think in the beginning I was just scared to be very vulnerable and open up about something that was really embarrassing about our life.
There's also accusations that Kay and Tay make sure all their channel earnings go under Tay's name so it doesn't get included in setting the price of Kay's child support rate. And many believe Taylor is the dad of the child he claims his wife got pregnant with while he was deployed. It just seems the rumors don't end with this couple. I will say, all in all, Kay and Tay's content isn't for me. Coming into this video, I only knew of their TikToks that occasionally show up on my For You page and that his mugshot was going around. But after hearing their story, this seems to be a great example of cancel culture being unhelpful. Cancel culture is important when it comes to holding people accountable, and maybe Kay and Tay need that. But from my perspective, all of this seems like a huge misunderstanding and differences of opinion. I am against them constantly posting their baby on their page, and I think there's some inconsistencies in their backstory. But they do seem like a couple that loves one another, and sometimes that feels rare in couple content. I also think many, if not most, of their TikToks are scripted and not fully authentic. Like this one, where Taylor is supposedly hiding a drink from his wife after they agreed to stop drinking soda.
What are you doing?
Doing nothing.
What are you doing? Are you drinking? What are you drinking? Is that a soda? We said we weren't doing any more sodas. Quit drinking it. Stop drinking it.
No, you can't drink. You said no more sodas.
I'm drinking some of it because you drank some of it.
That was only 23 seconds of the 1-minute TikTok. But again, I will say I think they truly do love one another. And I'm not sure if they filter comments, but don't let all this drama make you think their comment section is filled with hatred. They have a big following, and from what I've seen, many of the comments reference them as being couple goals or adorable, especially in the videos where Taylor is taking extra good care of Kay.
Special delivery. Me. Can I hang out?
With snacks?
Uh-huh. Can you open this some so I can see you?
It's gonna get cold in here.
Now it's gonna get steamy. It's lonely out there, Kay. I can't do it.
You wanna get in?
Yes, but you never asked.
Honestly, my husband and I do this often, but the delivery is so off and scripted to me. I personally enjoy not having these moments documented, but other couples love it. So now I have to ask, what do you think? What rumors do you believe? Do you believe all or some of the stories they've shared with Matt and Abby? Please comment all of your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe. I hope you have an amazing week. Bye!